everybody, my name is Chase Pipes and you're watching Chasing History, brought to you by American Digger Magazine in the Smoky Mountain Relic Room, and we are back out in the middle of nowhere, because that guy's with us. We're out back with our good buddy Ty Lamph and his aunt Cassis Allred, and we are checking out one of the coolest spots I've been into out in the desert. It's so fascinating that, when you think of World War II and World War II history, you don't really think of the United States and things going on here. You think of Europe and Africa and the Pacific, but one of the largest, or the largest military bases in the world that ever existed is literally right where we're standing. Ty, where are we?
Middle of the desert, Quartzsite, Arizona.
This is the Desert Training Center. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So who was stationed here? Who was sent out here?
These were Patton's troops. A lot of the tank troops were here. The guys were learning how to drive their tanks, maneuver their tanks. It was pretty hard on them out here. All the kids.
Yeah.
They were training for North Africa. By the time they got trained, the war in North Africa was over, and these poor guys were sent to the Pacific.
All right, so here's what you have here is you have the largest operational military base in the world going on right here. And the reason is because the United States is a huge and large country. The United States military needed to have the opportunity to train troops to operate on a vast, grand scale. Think about it, the U.S. military hadn't had a continental operation force since the Civil War. During World War I, when they were going into France, it was just, this section of this battle. They weren't planning on taking vast areas. So when the decision was made to go into North Africa, they needed to train troops in situations similar to that, and thankfully in the United States. We've got a lot of different climates, and one of those is the desert. And the desert southwest of the United States offered a great opportunity. They selected an area that is 380 miles that way and 250 miles that way into California to use as a operational zone. I mean, think about it. That is a huge expanse of the desert. So the troops came out, they were stationed here, they had the opportunity to learn how to operate not only as division size units, but also in a much larger scale. So what's this that we're seeing right here? What do we have here? The ruins that are in front of us here.
This was a tent city, actually, for the Army. No structures, all tents. The rocks are the foundations of where the tents were. You can see the outline of where their tents were set up. This was a big area they had.
Yeah, it's a huge area. And this would have been something not quite division size, but maybe a company size setup. And there would have been, the next company over, the next company over. What's fascinating is Ty was pulling up on Google Earth, and we were able to see tank treads where the tanks were treading that are still there. Because what is it about, geologically about this ground that keeps the things looking just like it was?
I mean, it's been this way for a long time. There's not a lot of water, there's not a lot of erosion and movement, so you get what's called patina on this rock. The iron oxidizes and it gets dark and shiny like this. The wind polishes it. So the rocks that are sitting on the surface get a specific look. When they get turned over, you'll see the white, the caliche, and the other minerals that are on the bottom of the rock turned up, and it takes a long time for that to get worn back off and get black again. I mean, this was, 70 some odd years ago that this was here, and it still looks like they got turned over yesterday.
Yeah. How much rain does this area get?
Not very much.
So that's what, go ahead.
They get the monsoons that come up, but that's only really maybe 6 weeks out of the year, but they usually don't get any rain.
And what's fascinating is it's that geological processes that are so slow here that allow us the opportunity to see this area almost encapsulated in time. The stones right where they were laid, you can look and see the tire treads through the ground. It's just fascinating to think of. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take you guys on a quick tour of this site real quick to show you a few of the neat features, and we're going to hop in and we're going to head that way and see what else we can find and take you guys with us. All right. What's wild that you can see is if you look on both sides, can see this streetway going through, and this was the main avenue of these barracks area, where you've got, you know, the rocks on one side and the tents on the other side, and you've got this big thoroughfare right through the middle. And you can just imagine, you know, 1942, 1943 USGIs coming out of their tents, coming onto this exact street, you know, checking out everything. Some of these guys were from the South. They've never been in the desert before, you know, getting ready to go and fight Rommel's Africa Corps. It's just fascinating. So if you look behind us, you can see the outlines of the tents. What's one of the reasons why they would use these rocks like this to put around their tents?
I mean, the tents were canvas tent. They weren't like we have today. So the bottom was open. So they put those rocks around the bottom edge to help hold that bottom edge down, to keep the water, rain, wind from blowing up underneath. It just helps stabilize. Scorpions, snakes.
So what kind of critters are out here that the men would run into?
Oh, everything. Everything.
Snakes?
It's typical southwestern desert where everything will bite or sting you or stick you with a sharp, pokey thing. I mean, everything hates you out here.
Everything in the desert wants to kill you.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you can see behind us, you know, these things are still in place. I mean, you can see where, you know, and these look like to be two-man tents, and you can see where there was one tent and they were back to back. And I'm going to step over and make sure not to disturb anything. But you can see where you've got a two-man tent here, here's the front, and then you've got another two-man tent here, and there's the front. So you've got 2 rows of tents going down this whole aisle right here. You know, and another important thing to stress is that when you are out here looking at this place, it is so important not to disturb anything. If you see any artifacts, leave them. This is public land, which means that this land belongs to everybody. If you see things out here, you leave them. If you're driving through, don't drive on the site. Drive away from it and walk onto the site. How important is it to keep this place, you know, protected?
It's part of our history.
It's part of history.
Yeah, one thing you got to remember is, Google Earth, you can look on this area right now and you can see all the tank tracks. You can see these lines from 70, 80 years ago. Your four-wheeler tracks ripping through this will be here 70 or 80 years from now.
Oh yeah.
It's a fragile environment.
It is.
Very fragile. And it wouldn't take much to have it destroyed.
Yeah, to where you wouldn't even be able to notice this was here anymore.
Yeah. You know, it's those same processes of erosion that we were talking about, you know, that where we can see the tank tracks, but your four-wheeler tracks can do just as much damage and last just as long as those tank tracks. There's a spot up here that we were walking down where you could see somebody in some four-wheeler ran through and cut a road right through the middle of this place. So we want you guys to come out and check this out and see how awesome this place is, but we want to make sure that you know, respect this place and protect it. So this is a cool site. This is a really cool place. So let's do this. Let's go see what else there is to explore out here. So we were driving along and it appears we've got a company right here. This is their setup. And then what's all behind us?
Well, you can see probably the main thoroughfare going down through. You can see like the old tent sites and stuff. We've not walked it yet, but it looks to me like, not like the other one was, where it would have been a company of troops stationed here, all their tents, all their barracks, their mess hall, everything scattered down through this one.
Yeah, and geologically, it's set up the same. It's on the same kind of rise as the one on the other side of the gully. You've got a big A right here, and then you've got tank tracks. When we pull it up on Google Earth, you can see just these massive tracks.
All over the place out here.
Yeah. So just a site that after this area was closed down in 1943. See, by 1943, we had already won the war in South Africa, and there was no other place in the desert that we were fighting the Axis anywhere. In 43, the troops that were still training here were going to end up in the Pacific, so there was no need for this massive operational area. So when it was done, if you're a tank operator, you're going to tear through and have fun and you know, knock it out one last time.
Yeah.
Well, let's go see some other sites.
Yeah, there's a couple more, I believe.
Well, it looks like we're on the right track. So we had A there, and this looks like B.
B Company.
B Company with the apostrophe. You know, one thing that was probably really important about this is that, you know, there were 5 airfields operating here, and so you've got that many airfields and that many airmen operating. It's important that from the sky they can see the locations of the camp as a way that they don't get lost, so they know where they are. So
be bombing the camp.
no, you don't want to be bombing the camps. Unless it's like, those B Company guys, we're getting them, you know, and throw your trash out on top of them. But, you know, this is cool. So this is just like we have the other spot. What's the geology going on here? It seems like
You've got all the drainage coming off the mountain, so the major gullies, you know, in between each one of these is kind of a major drainage, and every one of these camps is kind of on these little flat plateaus. Looks like they have pretty good drainage off it. They're not in danger of flash floods right here. They probably stay fairly dry. They don't have wake up in the middle of the night to flood the camp.
that makes sense. So you off these mountains, you've got little fingers coming, and on the rises of all these little fingers is just a different company's camp. That is cool. Well, let's keep on going down and see if we can find the other one. Well, we missed C, but we've got D, which is great. And D, and you've got 124, so that must stand for 124 or something. We'll try to do some research when we get back to figure out exactly what unit was here.
A couple years ago, you could see the C where the battalion was, where that company C was stationed at. And this is a good example of why you don't mess with this stuff and what's happening out in this desert. I mean, we're losing our history. Somebody had moved rocks around, and we missed a complete site because the rocks were moved to the point that you couldn't tell it was a site anymore. We think we're getting close to the headquarters area. It's a bigger area. There's stuff scattered all out through this flat. But I mean, this is a really good example of why a survey should be done. People should probably record this a little bit and get to know what is going on out here and try to record and remember what this was all about.
But what's wild is we've got this back behind us. Ty, what is this?
Well, you can see the crushed rock. You can see the different colored rock. They brought in a different colored rock for that area to put down as gravel for their pathway for some reason. Probably muddy spot, or maybe the commander wanted it fancied up a little bit more. But that's material that's been brought in. That's why it's a different color. That's not the native rock from here. That came from somewhere else.
And what's fascinating is on other sites, on other episodes, if you go look, you'll go to the episode where we talk about the 1916 invasion of Mexico and Camp Jones down there and Fort Frederick Funston. You know, they actually you can tell where all the camps were and all the individual tent sites, because they would bring in slag from the local mine and spread it over their tents to make a real nice pad. So it's just, that's one thing that was missing here until now.
Yeah,
now we've got this rock, this different colored rock that was hauled in. So there must have been something a little bit more important going on here.
Yeah, and in the distance there you can see those are all, once again, the little tent rings, the little two-man tent.
Yeah.
Tent sites all down back behind all this.
Yeah. So see, this is another finger. This is another setup where we've got, you know, all down this whole mountain line, we've got just company after company after company after company. And this is one battalion of 12 that operated out. I mean, it's just incredible to think you had 18,000 men working here, learning how to prepare for war. Yeah, because I mean, here's the thing: is this is a huge site. I mean, the reason the military was out here was because this is a place where the U.S. military could train in isolation. You know, this is in the middle of continental America. I mean, you're not going to spy out in these mountains. It's just not happening, you know. So, you know, they could train in isolation. You know, this is where they learned, you know, how do you attack a position in the desert? How do you defend a position in the desert? How do whole groups of men coordinate and move forward to push a line? You know, this is a hugely important area because this was the first time that the United States was to enter battle in a campaign fashion when they went into Africa. So I mean, this is hugely important to our history. You know, there's only a handful of those vets left that, you know, were here when they were training here. You know, it's really fascinating the history that took place out here. I mean, they would bus in ladies once a month. They would bus in ladies from Los Angeles, and the USO would come out. Bob Hope came out here, where they would have dances and parade and all that kind of fun stuff. You know, so this tells a huge part of our history, and it's one of these places that you can come out and it's like walking out and seeing an ancient ruin. only it's our ancient ruins. America is still a young country, but these are our ruins. So if you come out here and you visit, you know, take care of it, be respectful, don't disturb, just look and take a ton of pictures. So
one of the things that it's hard to wrap your head around how much different it was just in 1940 as compared to now. They didn't have GPS. They didn't have a way, I mean, the airplanes were flying back and forth between point A and point B by landmarks on the ground. They weren't flying by signals and by radar. I mean, it was all just by what you could see.
That mountain and hang a left past that knoll and look at that cactus.
You know, that's why some of these things like the A and the B and stuff were so important, because you didn't have just an easy way to tell where you were at. You had to have landmarks that you could go by. And learning out in this area, that was a big part of their learning, is trying to understand what they needed as far as intel to be able to move through these landscapes.
Yeah. So here's what we're doing with this episode, guys. This episode is just a really short look just to explain to you guys that this history is out here, that this history exists. When people think of World War II, they don't often think about, you know, the United States being a training field or, you know, major maneuvers going on there. But this is where major maneuvers happen, where the United States Army learned how to, you know, move in a major coordinated unit. And what's fascinating is because of the conditions out here, both the geologic and environmental conditions, you know, the remnants of this history is still there for you to see. So we hope that this inspires you to get out and to explore some of America's history, but more importantly, to learn more about this particular story in America's World War II annual, because this story is incredible. I mean, Patton was here, right there, or over there, or over there, or everywhere. This is just such a great story, and I urge you guys to get out and look and learn more about it. So this is one awesome country that we live in with an incredible history. Don't ever let anybody ever tell you that the history of the United States is not incredible, because it is. And this is an example of how it is. Some good B-roll. This is just a small little area in a vast expanse, you know, of California and Arizona. And we're just showing you a very small part, but we're hoping to inspire you guys to really get out there and to look at this history. I mean, we're just telling a really, really small part of it. And we hope to inspire you guys to come out here to explore this country that we live on, and to get out and see this history, you know? So this is beautiful out here, and we really hope you guys get an opportunity to come out and explore America's past. This is awesome. This has been an incredible adventure. We've had an opportunity to check out where the U.S. military trained how to fight World War II. From 1942 until April 1944, the U.S. military trained right here where we're at. We're standing right behind 1st Battalion headquarters sign, which would have been placed out here in front. Everything that we've seen before, A Company, B Company, we missed, we couldn't see, C was destroyed, but we saw D. All of those, this is the headquarters for that whole, how far was that? Like 2 miles?
Or 4
miles. It was quite a ways. So you can just imagine the expanse, and this is just one out of these 250 miles that way, 350 miles that way. This is a huge area, and this is where the U.S. military, all of it, learned how to function, where commanders learned how to use tanks and air and ground troops, how to use them all coordinated in combat, how to make sure that the communications work. This is where the engineers learned how to build these camps. This is where the cooks learned how to cook the foods, all in combat simulated areas. It's just so amazing to be in a spot where so much history made, and pivotal history, because this is what got us to win World War II, was the opportunity to have training like this. Mm-hmm. So, you guys got anything else to add?
No, I mean, just when you come to a spot like this, respect it. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Don't destroy our history.
Yeah. Miss Cassie, I cannot thank you enough.
Anytime.
Thank you so much
Yeah,
for having us out. We appreciate it and showing
Anytime.
us this history. And Ty, thank you very much.
Man.
We appreciate it. All right, guys. You are watching Chasing History. We are the educational arm of the Smoky Mountain Relic Room. Ty, where can people find you if they want to
Utah Dump Digger, look at us on Facebook. That's our best place.
Facebook, you can find us on Facebook too. So we are everywhere online on just Google Smoky Mountain Relic Room. You can find out more about it. If you like this episode, please do us a favor and like it, subscribe to it, and share so that our algorithmic overlords can let it know that we exist. I can't tell you how much sharing, commenting, liking, all that stuff does. It really helps us out. So please do that. So if there's anything that you guys want us to film, they got some history you want to know about, let us know. We'll go out and we'll film it. We'll tell it. So guys, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And remember, history rocks. Woohoo! Cassie, I got. Are you on Twitter?
No. Facebook.
Facebook.
That's all.
That's all you do. Do you do Twitter?
No.
You got an opinion about Twitter?
No.
No.
I don't do
sucks.
Twitter.
Twitter sucks.
Twitter
We'll never be on Twitter. Twitter's awful. It's evil. No Twitter.
I guess that's why I'm not on it.
Perfect. Yes. All right, this is a mic test. See if the mic's working. Everybody say yippee-ki-yay.
Yippee-ki-yay!
Yay! Woohoo! All right. You're watching Chasing History, brought to you by American Digger Magazine and the Smoky Mountain Relic Room, and we are back out in the wild with phones going. So what we hope to do is we hope to inspire you guys to get out. Holy shit. Whew. Maybe do that spill when I get to the top. All right, so what you had here is you had the largest operational place.
There's three.
Now, back in the 1940s, when these little dogs showed up, starving soldiers would have just been like, oh, good little puppy. It's a good little puppy. It has been so tasty. Don't eat me, little puppy. Arr, 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 arr.